And we are live, I think. That's always the question, isn't it? Hey, and we're live and we're talking about Grease live. Oh, totally planned that one out in advance. Um, if you're watching right now live on the internet, hello. If you're watching in the future on the internet, hello. And if you're watching in the distant future on your holographic brain chips, congratulations on living that long. Um, I'm sure people will be popping in soon. Today, we are talking about Grease Live, the hit Fox live musical, and this is a new thing for show of the month and really show of the week. There's not very often where I talk about specific productions of musicals. Most of the time, we're talking about a cast recording of a musical, or kind of the structure of a musical in general. But I think this is the first time, in a lot of ways, where like I'm talking about a specific actual singular performance, which is cool. I it means we got a lot to talk about, which is great. I got a whole yellow pad of notes. It's gonna be awesome. Um, so I rewatched Grease Live this morning, and I had never been. Grease was never my favorite musical. For a lot of reasons. It always felt a little dated. There's a lot of discussion about its message, which we'll get into in a little bit. And it never it wasn't up there. It wasn't on any of my lists. But I sitting down and actually watching it today, was kind of neat, and it's grown on me more than I expected it to. Um, uh, I think a lot of this has to do with Fox's gentle massaging of the show. I was doing some gentle internet research. All the ways Grease Live was different from the regular Grease, and there are a lot of minor changes and a lot of major changes. But I think some of the most effective changes are just the gentle updating of it. The whole what was his name? I keep calling him Hugo because he reminds me of Hugo from Bye Bye Birdie, the nerdy kid. Eugene. Like his whole subplot and making Miss Simcox a bigger role. Like all of these things just helped to make it a fuller seeming musical. And even like the plot changes of like Sandy doesn't want to be seen on camera because she lied to her parents. Like all of the characters were so much more three-dimensional than even I remembered the first time watching it. It was also really nice to watch the live production again without like the overwhelming social media pressure that was going on during the live musical. I was amazed at how well it all held up. It was very cool. Um, so what did I write down here? The first thing that struck me about the whole thing is like, thank God they had a plan for rain. Am I right? Some poor production intern, I'm sure, had to run out and buy a bazillion umbrellas like a week before when the 10-day forecast came out. But the whole outdoor Grease is the word with all the umbrellas, not only was it executed very, very well, but they they made all sorts of jokes about it. Mario Lopez made a less than exciting joke about our special guest El Nino, and later on, Anna Gasteyer makes some joke that was like, it was in the context of talking about the television show at school, but she said something like, oh, I hope it doesn't rain, which is, the show did this sort of thing all the time. They make all the jokes about like, oh, a live performance, what if something goes wrong? Or they make another joke that's like, that's all right, television audiences these days are very forgiving, like a total tongue-in-cheek to all the people hate watching and hate tweeting the thing. And like, this is so here's the vocabulary word of the day: verisimilitude, which I learned in theater college, but later heard is very popular due to the book A Series of Unfortunate Events. Verisimilitude is the essence of appearing to be real. It's almost how convincing a work of art, a piece of theater is. Like if you're watching the thing and you're like, oh yes, I believe that that's real. And one of the things I think in general about musical theater, as opposed to other art forms, is it has a low degree of verisimilitude. People break out into song. Theater in general is lower on the verisimilitude scale because you're surrounded by audience members and you see all the accoutrement of theater. Whereas something like film or even television, it gets closer to feeling real because you're watching this window into this fully created, seemingly 360-degree world. So you end up in a weird in-between spot when you're trying to do a live television musical, right? But what Fox was able to do with Grease Live is achieve that kind of low verisimilitude level with this live production through these in-jokes that the characters are making, through the live audience, through even just having, Jessie J do her walking through the set thing and Mario Lopez doing his introducing some of the scenes thing, and then having the commercial bumpers that are all about, the different behind the scenes stuff, and then, getting in the golf cart at the end and going. And I think that, to me, is one of the things that made this such an effective live musical. It helped capture that feeling of watching it on a stage, because like while the John Travolta, Olivia Newton-John movie is great and is one that we love, because these are kind of at that point more two-dimensional characters, a little more farcical characters, yet they're set in this very realistic, surround sound 360-degree world. That was always a little off-putting. But having the reactions and all this other stuff, it just, it made it for me. That's a great question. The chat says, I want to know about the version they were about to do before they got the okay to do it outside. So I was doing some reading on this. One of the big issues they had was less to do with the rain and more to do with the wind. Some big structure, which I couldn't find any specifics about, was deemed unsafe to use because of the high winds. And this was an unexpected turn of events. They had planned for rain and had some ideas for what rain might happen. You can predict that sort of stuff. But the wind thing they weren't ready for. And so they were busy trying to restage and re-rehearse a couple different numbers up until like an hour before the show when they got the clear to use whatever this unsafe outdoor structure was. I have a feeling it was the big tent that was over the entrance to the school set with the grass and the bleachers. That's my guess, but I have no verification of that. But like, what weird and strange, interesting challenges this new art form we're doing presents. And it is like this current brand of live television musical seems like a new emerging art form. I've talked before how like a live television musical in many ways is not new, because all television used to be live and a lot of popular culture was musical theater. They did, even just counting all the old variety shows of early black and white television, like this is not something new in that sense. But now that it's 2016, we have all this new technology and it feels like we're bringing Broadway back to the television as opposed to, I don't know, something else. And it's very interesting. I'm interested to see how it all develops. Okay, here's another thing I wrote down. I learned this when I was in sports television class in high school, which was a weird choice to make when registering for classes. But we used to film the basketball games and the football games and broadcast them on the public access channel. And, they were crap, but it was a lot of fun. In sports games and also in a lot of just American television, especially in like dual camera setups, they have this rule called the 180-degree rule. So imagine you're watching, I don't know, sports ball, whatever your favorite sports are. Next time you watch it, take a look at where all the camera positions are. And what you'll see is they stay within a 180-degree half circle around one side of the field. And there's a very specific reason for that. You need to very quickly, as a human being, you only have one camera, right? So you only have one existence inside your mind. You can't do the thing that television does where it suddenly snaps into someone else's viewpoint. That's a little jarring. And so you have to give the viewing audience some concrete idea of the physical space. And so when filming sports events, they make sure that one direction and the other direction always match up by staying to this 180-degree rule. I don't know how well I explained that. But it makes it simpler to view. And this extends to a lot of, I wouldn't say lower forms of television, but a lot of different kinds of television. Definitely started from the old I Love Lucy days, and certainly is just birthed out of the live theater proscenium setup, that you only see the three walls of, whoever's sitcom apartment. When you watch, I don't know, Friends or whatever, you have a very clear sense of where in this building one apartment is and the other apartment is and how the rooms are connected, and they're all in one long line, which is not how real life is set up, but it simplifies things and lets you follow it more. This is why this is important. Grease Live goes back and forth between 180-degree sets, 3-wall box sets, and 360-degree sets. And they even use some sets the other way around, like things like the Soda Shack, whatever it's called, is a 180-degree set. There's a side you don't see. The drive-in movie is a 180-degree set. A lot of the outdoor sets, the facade of the school, Sandy's house, all 180-degree. But the indoor school hallway, they use as a 360-degree set. We see every angle of that. And the gymnasium cafetorium that they use so many times, that's a 360-degree set. And that's interesting because it's dangerous, right? The reason we do 180 degrees in theater is because it gives you automatic hiding spots, like behind you and off to the sides, and you have wings and you have flies and you can just hide things there. But when you turn it into a 360-degree set, you can't hide anything anymore. And so you have to be more careful about those sort of things. Like they, during the dance concert, all of the presumably contemporary high definition video cameras are disguised as 1950s gigantic, boxy camcorders and like all sorts of stuff like that. And you have to keep all your lights higher, and you have to, this was a very daring production of them, and they made a lot of very daring production choices, including 360-degree sets. And like the lighting changes that it makes you have to do, and some of the set design changes they still incorporated, like all in that interesting low verisimilitude kind of way. With the like wall of the school sliding out of the way, and like the whole beauty school dropout transformation, like it's cool. It's really neat. And it's a lot. It says a lot about the success of the show. Kind of on that realm, about both preparing and, setting themselves up for success. I wondered very much why Mario Lopez. I get that there's some stunt casting going on, and I think these live musicals are always going to be doing stunt casting because they're ratings grabs. They're, in many ways one of the first death breaths of the dying art form of television. Like it's something that only TV can do right now, live television. Like you can't do that on Netflix. So there's going to be stunt casting. But why Mario Lopez, and why have him be like, welcome to Grease Live. This is Grease Live. You're watching Grease Live. Like very out of character before he goes in character. And I wondered, and I tried to do some research, and I couldn't find anything. But it seems like Mario Lopez is a part of their rain plan preparative decisions. So that, like, let's say something goes wrong, a set change takes too long, or someone trips, or something goes wrong. You can cut to Mario Lopez, who can be like, "Welcome back to Grease Live. I'm stalling. We're stalling. Have you seen, and like that gives you that backup plan." Like they did some very, very, very clever things with that. And that justified his presence to me a little more. Some of the other stunt casting, like whatever Jonas he is, just threw me off. It's neat when we had the old returning Grease members, Frenchie and the other guy, and like some lovely casting otherwise, but some of the stunt casting I could do without. Oh God, I wrote I hate the cheerleading. I don't hate the cheerleading. I thought the cheerleading was a nice touch. It helped us flesh out Patty Simcox. It was character exposition to Sandy and made her more three-dimensional. What I didn't like was the audience. And this, thank you, Kevin Jonas. I got to get my Jonas Brothers and my Spice Girls. I can never remember. Very different, but the cheerleading audience and the audience in general, I mean, they were being coached, of course, because that's what you do with a live audience. You don't want to lose them. To applause and clap and do whatever it is they're doing, but the applause they instructed them to do was not so much a theatrical applause and was much more like an American Idol applause. Less about, like, applause is supposed to be in this sort of context, compliments for the thing you're doing right now. What a great song. What a great moment. Oh my gosh, I want to express my excitement that you were successful in the thing you did. Like, it's bravo. It's exciting. But it seemed to be, understandably so much more like, oh my God, it's live TV. Oh my God, it's the people we recognize. Oh my God, it's all happening. Which that pulled me out a little more than I wanted to. And like, you could even hear, during scenes where in the world of the play, there's probably not an audience of 200 people watching this intimate interaction happen. And then you get this kind of random applause that, since you're not a part of the audience, you're kind of observing. It was just, I don't know. I wonder if they will continue to do these live audiences things. It's right on the fence for me. I wish they had, and this is something I thought I'd never say, but I wish they had let them do a live laugh track with it too, because when all you're getting are the applause reactions, but you're not getting the laugh lines to like all the wonderful jokes, and also all of the actors are barreling through a lot of the applause because it's television, it's timed, you gotta fit it on a certain schedule. It just seems like an extra thing. Like, there needs to be that breathing room, and like things like laugh lines, things like letting the audience react in every way that they would in live theater, not just with the like, oh my God, we're on television, which is just, I don't know. It was an interesting choice. And I'm still deciding whether I liked it, clearly. All right. So this was, I put a big box around this because my problem with Grease, so I've been perpetually in high school for the past 15 years of my life, between being in high school and teaching high school. And so a lot of the ways I look at musical theater are through the lens of high school appropriateness. Grease is a weird one on the lens because at first thought you'd think like, Grease, you can do that in a high school. It's about high school kids. That seems easy. But there's a lot of, excuse me, nitty gritty kind of stuff that a lot of, parents and high school audiences might not appreciate with Grease. One of them being, the moral of the story, at least of the movie, is to get the man you love, completely change yourself and throw all your morals out the window. Which, like, yes, Danny changes himself in the original, in the Olivia Newton-John, John Travolta one, but like only by putting a Letterman jacket on, and it kind of goes out the window right away. And they did a better job this time with the whole magic changes montage and the wonderful gym shorts scene, of letting us know that Danny is making these changes gradually, and that like they're both changing to meet each other in the middle. But so it's still not like, this is one of the reasons why I didn't like Grease, because it seems like it has this very flighty, fluffy, awful moral. And why would we want our high schoolers to do that? But on second watch this time around, actually sitting in the first time I've ever, taken notes while watching Grease, I wonder to myself, is the message of Grease change yourself to get the one you adore? Or is the message of Grease high school is complicated in very particular ways, and we all struggle through it and make it out the other end? And pretty much every character goes through some kind of semblance of that. They all have some complicated, very high schooly barrier that they have to get over. Um, whether it's the possibility of teen pregnancy, or the fact that your ex-boyfriend loves someone else, or the fact that it's difficult to keep up your cool guy persona while actually revealing your true inner self to a girl you love. Like, these are much more multi-dimensional, interesting angles into these characters that I was very, very happy they played up in this, because without them, Grease is very two-dimensional. I would have to watch it again to see, because I think high school is complicated is not the best thesis statement for a musical. It needs more fleshing out, but there's something there that I did not see until Grease Live, which, hey, if a live musical brought me that, we're doing pretty well. I was having, and this is, I got a bunch of books because I need to do research on this now. I was having a discussion with Jimmy, podcast Jimmy, about, someone had posted online, we are entering a new golden age of musicals. And I don't know if that's true, but if it is, these new live musicals, and maybe very specifically Grease Live, may be a big turning point, watershed in that very exciting new age of musicals. The fact that you can take a very defended and revered classic piece of musical theater and update it in such a way that it feels relevant and exciting for a contemporary audience, while still not feeling so far away from its, ancestral counterpart. The fact that you can do that successfully is really cool. And no small feat. Like, you look at the updating of all the other pieces of nerddom, like J.J. Abrams' Star Treks or the new Doctor Who series, and people love their old classic stuff a lot, and you have to be very careful and tread very lightly when you're working with people's favorite art. And they tended to it very nicely. I do like that, Henry. We should call it the Platinum Age as past the Gold Age. I don't know. I literally have a whole stack of 6 books on my table over there that I'm slowly working my way through. Really what happened is I Googled the Golden Age of musical theater and then, bought myself a bunch of books off of Amazon. Here it is. Low verisimilitude theater. Did I spell verisimilitude right? That's awesome. I never spell anything right. So, and here, yeah, magic changes. Duty, is it Duty Song? They all have such funny names. Yeah, Duty. I thought was one of the most successful sequences in the show. Everything else, there were a lot of very interesting long oneers, like the whole Jesse jaywalk through into the first scene. Jesse jaywalk, you walk across the street without looking both ways, and your name's Jesse. almost the entire shot is one steady cam guy slowly walking backwards in front of Jessie J, and then they like pan in, and then they go into the school. Like, it is almost a 2-minute shot. There are a couple cuts in between there, but that's really complicated. But the magic changes sequence, like, it was a montage. It was a live television musical theater montage, which is I need better words than really cool, but really cool, because you have to, you've got one guy on a guitar, maybe live, but definitely singing live, in counterpart with either pre-recorded or live orchestra somewhere else, or both, probably some combination of both with like a click track or something. With singing certain bits and then certain bits of underscoring that have to be perfectly timed to the action that's happening while the underscoring is happening, while making sure your singer and your non-singing actors can get to the right spot in different sets back and forth, all on this right timing. Like, that's mind-boggling to me. The kind of organization and rehearsal that it must have taken to get that all just down so pat. Like, I know, like, we do this rehearsal all the time, and so often it's the theater major's curse. Like, you go to a show and you can't not think of all the work that went into it. You can't just sit there and be transported as easily as, say, a business major or something. But this did it for me. This, like, you know the whole montage bit, like, there were some moments where I was like, wow, that it just looks so effortless, and it's absolutely not. They're all working very, very hard, and it doesn't show, or it doesn't feel like it. It feels easy and off the cuff. And uh I really liked Grease Live. It might be, I liked The Wiz. The Wiz was the first of the contemporary live musicals that, like, I could even tolerate. But man, Fox has changed the game with this one. And who knows if people will keep up, because, like, that's the thing, right? This is, you have to look at this. So the bigger narrative is traditional television is dying. People are feeling the ratings slip. We live in a world where reality shows are winning because they get people in, and we're not, and the good television drama, the good television writing is either coming from Europe, BBC, or from Netflix or Amazon Prime. There's not a lot of, like, artful television going on because of this disconnect. And so, and ratings are still, like, it's an awful cycle. Like, then that makes more reality shows, which drives more people to cut the cord. And so that's why we have live musicals, I wager. I theorize, because the suits in the boardroom were like, what can we do that no one else can do? We can do live, let's do live. And so, for a lot of reasons, live musicals are a rating grab, right? They're there to get people to tune in on during prime time on whatever day. They generate a big buzz, and, like, you invest a lot of money in them once, but they're not a huge money sink as much as, like, a really dramatic serial is that may not get the ratings. But because of all that, it doesn't matter much how good the show is, right? They tried to NBC tried to combat this with Peter Pan by shaming people for hate tweeting. They released a lot of articles about, like, oh, what was her name? Allison Williams. Doesn't want you to hate tweet this. And, like, I think that's condescending to people like me, frankly, because I'm not hate tweeting. I love it, but I'm responding in the same, we're responding to the art that's given to us. Where was I going? My train of thought just drove out of the station. So it's just a ratings grab. So it doesn't matter how well it goes. Like, people will tune in to watch a failure. People don't watch NASCAR to watch the car go around and around 100 times. They watch it for, like, the 1 in a million times when the car's going to crash, as bad as that is. And so as much as Greece has pushed the envelope with this by making a wonderful, wonderful piece of live television, musical theater, new art form, whatever, they might not have needed to. And someone's going to realize that at some point, right? Like, if, certainly they can't phone it in, but if Fox had invested exactly as much effort as NBC did for The Wiz or Peter Pan, and it was equally mediocrely received, like something like Peter Pan, um, or The Sound of Music, then there people will still tune in. They will still get the views and the advertising dollars, and so this is the unending, interminable argument about art versus business. But uh, if the goal is ratings, then why invest that much? And who knows? They may figure that out, or we may see the birth of a wonderful art form. I'm excited for the day when there's like hot competition during what's the television one? The Oscars, whatever the television award show is. See, this is how little television I watch. Um, the Emmys. I'm the best. When like live television production category in the Emmys has like hot competition, that will be an exciting day because a lot of them will be musicals. Um, it is. We live in weird, new, and interesting times for this kind of art form, and I've talked about this before, and I wish I wish Daddy Longlegs was better, because once this becomes a thing that isn't constrained by the old institution of network television, we will see an explosion in the kind of art forms that we have, right? Like, I'm on the internet right now talking to you people across the world live. That's crazy, but it was really easy. I clicked a bunch of buttons in my apartment. It was relatively inexpensive. Like, this is something I just set up easily, and that scales really well. So I think it is only a matter of time before we see designed for live internet, vaguely television seeming shows, right? And that's not the right word for it, because it's not television. It's like how we still say we hang up our cell phones, but we don't put it on a hook anymore. Like, it won't be a television show because it's not on television, but something in that format, some kind of live new art sort of stuff that is geared towards the popular culture, that is geared towards anyone with a computer who can just load it up. Daddy Longlegs started us there. It also was a publicity stunt that it was, I imagine, mildly successful. I now know about Daddy Longlegs, whereas before I didn't. But it was still a live broadcast of a actual, honest to goodness musical on a stage with an audience. I think it's only a matter of time before we see web series that happen live or have live portions. And that just blows the lid off the art forms. I mean, we've seen how successful alternate reality marketing campaigns can be. Like, that's old school stuff now. All of the Lost stuff and the Cloverfield stuff of like, ooh, you gotta figure it out. Incorporate that with actual honest to goodness live stuff like this. It's really cool. Has StarKid done live stuff? I know they do interesting, I guess they do put their stuff online. There's like, they would be great. Also, like, that's exactly the sort of stuff that would work really, really well in this medium. And it's very hip and interesting. We live on the internet where no matter how nerdy you are, you can find someone else who's exactly the kind of nerd you are, which, what a time to be alive. Let me tell you. We've gone off the tracks. What are we talking about? Greece? Okay. The new songs, I have to look up their names because I cannot remember. So there's Frenchie's new song, which is All I Need Is an Angel, and then Danny had a new song. Abandoned at the drive-in, locked out at the drive-in, drive-in to the drive-in, drive-in, the drive-in song with the lights behind it. Who knows that one? Okay, first Frenchie's song. Clearly, so Frenchie doesn't have that kind of song as written in the musical or in the stage version. I'd have to double check that. And they cast her name Carly Rae Jepsen as that. And you don't cast Carly Rae Jepsen in a role and then not give her a song. So that makes sense. That said, All I Need Is an Angel was a stupid song. It wasn't a stupid song. It was no. Do you like that where I make a statement and then I immediately contradict it? It was a stupid song in context. Out of context, sounds like a normal pop song. But that was exactly the problem. It did not sound like a musical theater song. It takes you out of the moment. It was very repetitive. Pretty much all the other songs in the show, pardon me, I have a bit of a cold. Pretty much all the other songs in the show do at least a little something to progress the plot, or they are the culmination of a plot, or they're like a they seem important. Frenchie's song, we've already developed her character. We already have beauty school dropout to take care of, relaying how she feels about this. So we don't need another song there. But problem is, other than dropping out of beauty school, Frenchie's character doesn't have a lot going on. So this is where stunt casting and rewriting collide and was less than successful. I also think Miss Carly Rae, Miss Rae Jepsen, who knows? Maybe she's more like Lloyd Webber. Didn't sell that song very well, and they didn't give her a lot. It was, a sit and sing slightly past the camera kind of song, and that was about it. And it just didn't read. That part didn't read for me very well. Oh, I'm gonna get yelled at for saying his name wrong. Aaron T, Danny Zuko, the cute one. His song, Left at the Drive-In Movie, Abandoned at the Drive-In Theater. Thank God for Wikipedia. Hold on. Is this not on here? Danny's solo. What's the name of Danny's solo? Internet, I'm failing you today. Or the internet is failing me. Is it called Sandy? Is it just called Sandy? No. If it is, that's a stupid name. It's called Sandy. That's stupid. It should be a more descriptive name. I understand that it's called Sandy. Was better. Thesis of all that was better. What is weird is it didn't. Watching it again, and I couldn't remember, but it did this in my mind and in real life. So it jumps into the song right away. There's not a lot of underscoring that leads it into it. It just kind of like Sandy leaves, and there's barely even a measure of music before he suddenly starts singing. And I don't know, that's weird. Also, it was more difficult to suspend my disbelief that he suddenly has this. Danny Zuko keeps his feelings in, right? That's one of his character traits, and he's battling against it, and that's the interesting part of it. And suddenly he's belting this song at the drive-in movie, not secretly to himself at home or on the street corner or something. And we don't see any other characters there, but there's a bunch of other cars. I can only suspend my disbelief so much. Still better. And then there were all the weird 1950s remix of Cake by the Ocean and other silly stuff that was going on. I did absolutely love the Boys to Men doing Beauty School Dropout. I think it's great in the original John Travolta, Olivia Newton-John movie. And this was a new, fun, and interesting way to take it. And it's a silly song about a like silly moment, and what you know the older movie did for the generation that was watching it, Boys to Men was able to do for at least my generation. Because you could be like, hey, I understand this aesthetic that they're going for, and like it makes that number work. And I don't think it would have worked as well if they had another vaguely Elvis singing or Elvis looking impersonator walk down silver stairs. Like, people know who Elvis is nowadays, kids do, but they don't react the same way. Like, I thought that was a good choice. La la la. Oh, another part. So I have seen Grease on stage in the round. So you can only do so much in the round. There's a great in the round theater just north of Chicago that does really good. Like, they're a great regional theater. They have this wonderful, four-sided square stage that they really use very well and just do some great musical theater productions. And I saw Grease there, and you can only do so much with that. So I wonder, outside of that, I don't have a good sense of how the car race happens on stage. I'm now questioning whether or not the car race is in the stage production. I imagine it has to be. But in the live production, I thought, so it's the climax. The car chase is the climax of the whole show. It's what we've been leading up to. It's called Grease. The car is greased lightning. Like, there's a damn car on the poster. Like, this is the big deal. And so it should be big and loud and feel exciting. And it just didn't. And were the rest of it not such high quality production, I would have forgiven the like top down lights flashing and then like just close up shots of people driving. But because the rest of it took such great and wonderful risks, why not do something more with the car race? I mean, not that they have to be actually racing cars, but you can do some television magic, or at least, they had them stationary on carts or something, and so they could do close-ups of the wheels and stuff like that. And then only at the very, very end did they have Danny's car pull forward slowly. But I want to see the competition. I want to see the Scorpions pull ahead and the Danny pull ahead, and then they swerve into each other and they pull ahead. I want the movie. It was just kind of like, I don't know. It looked like at that, the way they staged it, they might as well have like had a 5-year-old with 2 Hot Wheel cars going like, "Meow, meow." Like, that would have been more interesting than the static shots of them pretending to drive cars. Nothing else in any of the live productions has looked more like actors pretending to be doing the thing that they're supposed to be doing. That one, I think the race was the lowest part of the show for me. At least the lowest clearly intentional part of the show. There was, at least on the West Coast broadcast, in my book, very serious audio error where all the sound dropped out in the middle of one part of the dance at the gym for like a good 45 seconds. And like, people get fired for 45 seconds of silence on television. That's bad news bears. But it made me think, and it's hard, Fox's social media game is very much on point, and their internet control machine is very much on point. So it's hard to find non-PR pieces written about Grease the musical. a lot of things seem very much clearly like spun by the Fox department, that's how television works. That's how the online, publication process works. But I was trying to find some actually very serious discussion of how they did all the sound for the show, and I couldn't. I have these questions like, was there a live band? Probably. That would make sense, but they never showed it. Um, and they did endeavor to show you a lot of behind the scenes stuff. And if there was a room somewhere filled with like 20 or 30 or 40 musicians, they probably would have shown it at some point, which makes me think a lot of the at least accompanying music was pre-recorded. And that honestly is kind of a smart choice, especially because you have so many unknowns. It's easy if they've been able to rehearse with this exact recording every single time. You don't have to pipe in video footage of a conductor into every place where you're doing this so they can follow along. They can just watch a light that flashes in time with the beat every time. So once you have that point, it makes me wonder if any of the vocals were pre-recorded. I suspect that they wouldn't do that for the solos because that, they cast, then you shouldn't cast, then they wouldn't cast singers. They would be more stunt casting if they had the chance to do any auto tuning or shop around for their best recording of it. So I imagine a lot of the singers were singing live, and you can do that a bunch of ways. You can have microphones in the cameras. You can do a boom mic just off screen. You can give them body mics, although I don't think they gave them body mics. But I wonder about some of the chorus pieces. It struck me the most during, finale number 2, when they sing the hand jive again and they're in the carnival. Like, no shot lasts more than 3 seconds, and they're all like, whoa! And so you can't see a lot of people, and they had all just run this long distance, and they're surrounded by a non-acting audience of screaming television watchers. And I don't know what kind of microphoning you can do that will cleanly and adequately pick up a chorus of 20 some people while not picking up the 200 screaming people all around them at once. So I suspect with that and with a couple other times during the show, a lot of people were pre-recorded. And I don't know how I feel about that, right? Like, then live becomes a lie, right? Um, there's, you're selling this on the like, it's just like Broadway, and they worked really hard. This wasn't television imitating Broadway. This was a bunch of people who legitimately work on Broadway and in the musical theater scene, bringing their artwork to the television. And, that would make me sad to find out that a significant portion of it was pre-recorded and then not talked about, right? Um, they pre-record things for all sorts of stuff. They pre-record things for the Super Bowl, they pre-record things for the Olympics, and that's fine because they're putting on a performance. And just like we suspend our disbelief for to accept the story of the show, we also suspend our disbelief to accept some of the artwork and inner trappings of the show. Just because, in the same way that we like pretend that these actors on stage are saying these words for the first time ever and not for the 100th time because they've memorized them. But all the articles I have found said like, no, there will be no lip syncing. Everyone is singing live. And I don't know. A lot of what I saw this time around, especially because I was looking for it, led me to believe that they were cheating. And that makes it feel like cheating. And, I'm a nerd who looks for this stuff. Certainly the general populace doesn't care. But they should, because I feel people should care too much about these musical theater things. But also, makes me sad. Makes me sad. But whatever. And now I will sing while drinking this glass of water. Did you hear? I saw on my Twitter. This is totally, we're in a whole different world. Chicago, the musical, recently set a new record for longest sung note, at least a new internal record for at the end of Both Reached for the Gun, when Billy goes, both reach for the gun. I think it's the note that they hold for very, very, very long. And it was like the new record they just set was something like 31 or 32 seconds, which is a crazy amount of time to hold the same note. I was reminded because he drinks water or milk or something. My brain trains all over the place. I'm working on 2 productions right now, and my life is very filled with things, and I'm so glad we get to share this time together to give me a break from all of the craziness. It's wonderful. What else about Greece? I want to talk about the social media world that accompanies these live productions now. This is where I really want to see as this art form grows and continues, people capitalize on this a little more with a little more authenticity. There are better ways to do it and worse ways to do it. Like when Peter Pan threw up the hashtag that was like tweets for Tink or whatever, when it was like clap to save Tinkerbell, but really you have to tweet to save Tinkerbell. Like that was stupid. Clapping to save Tinkerbell pulls me out of the moment enough in a theater when they're all like, take out your phones, vote now. It was the worst. Greece did it better. It was less obtrusive, and because they were doing all the behind the scenes stuff as a part of the art form anyway, that dovetails very nicely into online behind the scenes videos and stuff like that. But social media has yet to do a very good job of replicating the audience feeling, right? Like, I think we're getting closer. Like, I love live tweeting this kind of shiznit. And clearly a lot of the internet does. But that's still, we're all just standing on the top of our own mountains and yelling. And sometimes there's little interactions across, but it's really like who can make the best joke first, which is fun and great, but not sitting next to a person in a room and having a discussion with them about the thing that you're watching. And like, not that you go to see a show on Broadway and the whole time you're with your friend and you're like, oh, that thing, we're going to talk about it right now. Like, clearly that's not how audiences work. But when you leave the theater, you talk about it, and during intermission you talk about it, and you still have moments where like you nudge the person you took, and you're like, the thing, oh, whoa, and like when they start laughing, you start laughing, and that to me is one of the biggest joys of live theater, is that you have to see it with other people, you have to experience it with other people, and it's built for that. And not only are you experiencing it with other people, but the people who are acting are also experiencing it with you, the audience. Like that's one of the lovey-dovey lines that directors say to their casts on opening night. Like, we welcome our newest cast member tonight, the audience. And as trite as that may seem, there's a degree of truth to that. Like, the audience is the show. That to me, and they tried with a live audience on this, but a live audience of 200 is nothing compared to the live audience of the 2 million that are watching. And to find a way to let the actors into that audience experience through the camera somehow, in a way that doesn't seem either overly manufactured or so complicated as to detract from the art of the show, that's the next step. That's the thing we need. Like, less the tweet to save Tink and more like, on Periscope, which is a thing my students recently told me about, where you like live stream from your phone. It's like, come and join me while we eat ramen or whatever the heck we do nowadays. But there's a thing where you tap a little heart, and then on the person who's watching its screen, the heart goes, ooh, just like a little thing. And it's like a weird kind of feedback that you get. Like things like that, simple, almost non-verbal communications that replicate the live experience. That is what the live television musical theater world needs. Less of the American Idol audience there and more of the actual honest conveyance of the audience's response. Like if we're really trying to replicate the live theater experience, which I wager we are, that's what I want to see. And I don't know how, but there are smarter people in the world and they'll figure it out, I'm sure. To close us off, I have, as usual, oh no, where did it go? Hold on, I gotta find it. A silly BuzzFeed quiz that we're all going to take together. I will put the link in the chat. Computers are hard. All right. We can all... Oh, no. Where'd my chat window go? All right, everyone. We're going to find out which Grease pink lady are you. This is after the old movie, but, it'll work. All right, here we go. Everyone ready? We all got it loaded up. How would you describe your style? Spunky and adventurous, understated and classic, sexy and intimidating, pretty and precocious, or simple and carefree? I think I would describe my style as spunky and adventurous. Number 2, what is the worst thing people say about you? Oh, and there's a great picture of this color by numbers horse painting. The unexplained mystery of Greece in both bedrooms, in the original one and the live one. They have this unfinished color by numbers painting of a horse. It's the same one, and I don't understand why. What was the question? What's the worst thing people say about you? You're mean, you're dumb, you're fat, you're naive, or you're fake. A lot of people call me dumb, which, I think I'm a little dumb. If internet comments are anything to go by, I'm very dumb and a vast assortment of colorful words. There's an iPhone app that is for YouTube creators like me, and it pushes your comments to you and they show up on your screen, which is dangerous. And the comments part used to not work until very recently. And so now whenever I get a new comment, my phone tells me about it right away. But there's a character limit to it. And so I got one the other day that said, "You seem very much like a Patti LuPone." And it did say more, but the cutoff just made it hilarious. All right, where are we on this quiz? Number 3, how would you most like to be perceived? As a good friend, as a goofball, as a class act, as an adult, or it doesn't matter to you? I would like to be perceived as a goofball, because being goofy is one of the best parts of life. Number 4, what do you look for in a partner? Oh, this is dangerous. Kindness, maturity, sex appeal, fun, or ease? I look for fun. That's a nice generic one. If on your OkCupid, one of the top 5 things you couldn't do without is fun, that's all right. Number 5, who is your Grease dream man? Oh, this is a hard one. Kaneki, Danny Zuko, Putsy, Vince Fontaine, or Duty? Ooh, this depends on which version we're talking about, because up until Grease Live, it probably would have been Kaneki, but I think Duty's winning me over. I'm gonna have to go with Duty. Number 6, what is your idea of the perfect date? All you need is a light jacket. Sharing a milkshake and fries, taking a long walk on the beach, writing each other romantic letters. That's not a date. You're gonna sit with someone and both write letters at the same time. Tearing it up on the dance floor, or making out in the back of a car. Probably a milkshake. I could go for a milkshake right now. Number 7, what is your addiction? Food, sex, romance, cigarettes, or you don't have any addictions? Well, If the milkshake comment is anything to go by, it's food. Number 8. What is your favorite milkshake flavor? Oh, they were so ready. They were so ready for me. Cherry, chocolate, strawberry, mint, or vanilla? Probably chocolate. That seems simple. Which age is closest to how old you felt in high school? 10, 15, 20, 25, or 30? Probably 15. Yeah. Pick a color. Oh, this is tough. Green, orange, pink, yellow, or black? I'm gonna have to go with black. What is your favorite Grease song? Hopelessly Devoted to You, Beauty School Dropout, There Are Worse Things I Could Do, It's Raining on Prom Night, or Look at Me, I'm Sandra Dee. There Are Worse Things I Could Do. I think it's one of the best songs in musical theater. Which quote sounds most like something you would say? Do you think these glasses make me look smarter? Don't let me near the refreshment stand. I wish I had a guardian angel to tell me what to do. Some people are so touchy. Or he was sort of special. I think something I would most likely say is probably, do these glasses make me look smarter? And on that, I got Frenchie too. People don't always take you seriously, but that's just because you're still figuring yourself out. What's important is that you're a good person and a loyal friend. BuzzFeed quizzes are like the new horoscopes, right? It's all like, it's the best. You're a Sagittarius and you're a Frenchie. And on that wonderful note, thank you all for joining me. Those of you watching in the future, thank you all for watching this again. I look forward to more live musicals. I know Rocky Horror is coming out. Hairspray is coming up at some point too. You'll be sure to see me on Twitter, tweeting away, talking about them. And who knows, maybe we'll do one of these again about them. It'll probably be great. Thank you all for coming, and I will see you next time. And he slowly moves the windows to find the window with the button that says stop. Oh no, we can't find it. Oh no, where it is? Oh, there it is. Bye!